Our theme tonight is content and creating engaging content. And I want to, why is this important? We're often told create, 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 but why is it important? We need to have the ability that we're going to stand out when we create that content. And this is one of the reasons. It is projected by globally by 2025, and that's only 2 years away in a month, that there will be 175 zettabytes of data being produced regularly globally. That's 1 sextillion bytes. I had never even heard of some of these measurements, so I had to break it down a little bit more, and I learned that's 1 billion terabytes of information. How do we then stand out? It is the content that we create and our ability to add value with that, which is then what we are talking about. What are we going to do with that content that is going to make us stand out? Now, I am finding the agenda that I have shared multiple times with everybody now. The first order is to describe the role. Now, our first evaluator is Adam. And what points are you looking for in Fred's speech? If you could tell us a bit about that tonight. And you could go ahead and introduce him also, if you have the introduction. You're muted.
Okay, I guess I'm not muted anymore. I think I got an introduction from Easy Speak, so I'll just use that. Okay, so today's first speaker, Fred Bergeron. His speech is a part of Innovation Planning 4-4. It's around building a social media presence. So he's planning on delivering a speech about the results and experience of building a new social media presence or enhancing an existing presence, as well as the benefits of social media, which is very, very much relevant to what our club charter is all about. So I'm really excited for that. Beyond, so I'm going to be evaluating him on how organized his speech is. I'm going to evaluate him. One of the things I specifically look for is engagement. So I will evaluate him on engagement, overall body language, and clarity of the thought process. That's about it. Back to Marcy.
Thank you, Adam. Oops, wrong page. Fred has been in Toastmasters since August 2014. He's a Navy veteran, an avid photographer, and loves sharing his knowledge about content creation. His speech is 5 to 7 minutes long and is entitled From 1 to 3 to 3 to 1. Please welcome distinguished Toastmaster Fred Bergeron.
Thank you, Marcy. I take it y'all can see my screen. Give me a thumbs up. Thank you. Well, I had to jump at the chance when I heard that our theme was creating compelling content. So let's start with what is content. So all fans here, maybe one person can tell me, what is your version of content? Anybody? Bill?
It's the substance of what I'm communicating to my audience.
That's the long and the short of it. But the main definition is the presentation of information or a purpose to an audience through some type of channel. Now there's also compelling. Who wants to give me a stab at what compelling is? Jill? Bill and Jill.
Convincing, being convincing.
Yeah, you could say that in a nutshell, but here's the big explanation basically right here, and that is evoking interest, attention, or admiration in a powerfully irresistible way. In other words, what's something that's going to draw you in to this content? Let's say PR Masters. What's something that's going to help us draw people in to come to our meetings? So now the next question is, how do you create it? Well, first, step number one, testimonials. Nothing speaks volumes like testimonials, and you can do testimonials several different ways. You can do it on a social media page, a written testimonial, but nothing speaks more volumes than video testimonials. Would everybody agree with that? Next, there's reframing content, and I'll explain more about that on the next slide. And then there's also value and educational content. For example, when Charissa records these meetings, she does some tweaking and then she uploads them to YouTube. So that would be the educational content, and the value is what our viewing members get out of it. And for those of us that charge for content, remember that it's the price is what you pay and the value is what you get. So remember that. So back to reframing. According to neuro-linguistic programming, reframing is basically changing your behavior to suit the place and time and seeing the behavior or problem with a different perspective. So just remember, we all have to see things at a different perspective from time to time. So to round it up, just remember that it's content with a purpose, which means what problem are you trying to solve when you create content? So you heard about that R. Let me tell you about 3 other R's to help you create compelling content. First, there's reuse. What this means is you can reuse some type of content. Let's say a photo. And say someone was posting a photo of myself as one of the speakers for this meeting. Then I can turn around and use that same photo. Say I'm speaking at an event outside of Toastmasters. I can use that same photo outside of here as well, as far as how the reusing goes. Then there's repurposing. Yes, there is a difference, even though they're related. But basically what repurposing is to reuse something basically for a different purpose or in a different way. For example, how many people here have heard of the term B-roll when it comes to videos or photography? Repurposing is a good purpose of using B-roll. And B-roll is basically secondary footage that you didn't use the first time around. So let's say someone's paying me to create some content for them, and then they wanted me to create more content for a different ad. Well, I can do one of 2 things. I can either go back there and shoot more footage, or I can take my B-roll and make another video about it, still charge the same person, and all I did was just repurpose what I already have. So that's one thing to remember as well. And then let's not forget to research your competitors' content. For example, from a Toastmasters perspective, from a Toastmasters perspective, if you're researching it, let's say you stumbled across Dale Carnegie, but you also were curious about Toastmasters. Well, if you research Dale Carnegie, their fees range anywhere from $100 to about $2,000. Toastmasters is only $90 a year. On the leadership side, how many of you have heard of John Maxwell? Well, he's a top leadership guru, and his certifications and courses run anywhere from $3,000 to about double that. And again, you can pay for Toastmasters at just $90 a year if you do your research. That's a big savings right there. So now we're going to move on to what's called the 3-2-1 model or the 3-2-1 strategy of creating content. And that is to post 3 pieces of industry related content. For example, I'm going to use Toastmasters again. One thing you want to do is you can post that you're having a meeting. You can post when you're meeting, and then you can post how or where you're meeting. That would be your number 3. Then you can do what's called 2 pieces of proud content. And examples of that would be, say, a photo of a member receiving an award and that video testimonial I mentioned earlier. Those would be 2 pieces of proud content there, because who wouldn't be proud to brag about Toastmasters or brag about their club? And then there's 1 piece of product or service related content. And this is basically, let's say Matthew, as our president, did a video on our Facebook page on why you should join PR Masters or why you should join Toastmasters. So that would be a great idea on using 1 piece of product related content. And as the great Bill Gates said, content is king. And if you're wondering why I'm wearing my hat, it's actually an elf hat, but Adam dubbed me as the king. So I will just prove to you that content is king, because if you follow a lot of these steps, which I'm sure some of the ones Jennifer is going to talk about, you will be a successful content creator. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Fred. As always, you've done your research and expanded our understanding of things that we need to consider to up our performance. And now we were supposed to move into a mini engagement. However, that didn't work, but I think very quickly, if everybody could type in the chat, I'm going to fill this role in very quickly myself right now. Put 1 thing that you took away from Adams. Type it, don't hit the enter button yet, and we'll do enter all at the same time. It's kind of word fall. So if everybody could just take 1 thing that you grabbed away from Fred's speech and just put 1 thing in, and we will take just a minute to do that. Type it in, and when I say go, hit enter. Don't enter, don't do it until I say go. Please. And go. Thank you, everyone. And there's some feedback for you immediately, Fred. Now, I am pleased to introduce Jill, who is taking on the role of evaluating Jennifer's speech. Jill, if you could tell us some points about the next speech and what you will be looking for.
Thank you, Marcy. As you guys can see on the agenda, we have Jennifer Schmidt up next with the value of compelling content. She is going to be giving an educational presentation tonight. A few things about what I'm going to be looking for, paying attention to her content, and also how the delivery is of her presentation. Also focused on what is being delivered, also kind of tied in with that content. I'll always be looking for structure of the speech and the effectiveness of the message also. With that, back to you, Marcy.
Thank you very much, Jill. I am delighted to welcome Jennifer to our virtual stage. I have been able to appreciate some of the content she has created in the past, and her speeches always leave me thinking. And that's a good thing when we can leave people thinking. I would like to introduce now Jennifer. Her speech tonight is The Value of Compelling Content. Jennifer Schmidt. Please welcome her.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and honored guest. Reason I wanted to speak tonight is because I do own a freelance writing business, and I know a little bit about content because I've been writing it for a while in the HR and real estate arena. And one website I have where my content is featured, I've had 235,000 article reads. So I'm excited to share some ideas for posting articles or getting your content out there of how it can catch attention. I looked this up, and Google has on average 3.5 million searches per day. That's a lot of competition. So standing out, you're standing out in a pool of 3.5 billion searches, and that's per day. So the first thing you want to do with any content you are sharing for Toastmasters is your headline. If you're in like the checkout aisle of a supermarket and you notice all the magazines with the titles, the thing that catches your attention usually is something about that's going to make you either richer, thinner, or smarter. And so you might not be looking for an answer in that moment, but when you're searching for something online, you were looking for an answer, but it starts with a headline. A couple of headlines that I've used for articles I've written, there are 17 tips to sell your home in a down market. It's clear, it's simple. You know what you're going to be reading about right from the top. If you're doing that for Toastmasters, you'd want to say, like if you were having a guest speaker, for example, what is your audience going to gain from attending your event? What information will they get when they read your post? Another headline I use is, what is considered a fixture when selling a house? So then I go into the hook. The hook of your post is how you're going to entice your reader. For the fixture one, I said, a dining room chandelier, the crown jewel of your home, convince potential buyers to write an offer because they fell in love with it. Now, I could have just said, this a fixture is attached to your house. Not very exciting, kind of very accurate, but very boring. That is not going to entice anyone to read your article. They might get the information they need, but they're not going to be enticed. So you want to hook your reader. But most of all, you want to help your reader. Like I said, they want solutions. How is the content going to make their life better? And what techniques will they learn at your club? So make your content easy to skim. Now, I'd love to think that out of all those article reads that 235,000 people read every single word, but I know for a fact they did not. So what you need are like little digestible morsels of information. The way you do this is, instead of big, bulky paragraphs, you want shorter paragraphs, 1 to 2 sentences, and bolding. Lots of bolding in the sense of, if you have like points you're making, put 3. I mean, you don't want it all the way down, like everything bolded, that wouldn't be effective. You want like the points that stand out so they can know what you're talking about and then take that information. Most important, and I always remember that Eric Winger said this, value added. Don't write for the sake of writing. You have to have a purpose. About in the mid 1990s, keyword stuffing was very popular because people were all trying to get on the internet and they all wanted a way to get content out there, and the blog posts were short, very short, and like every other word was a keyword. And you do that kind of writing, it's very boring. Like if you're saying PR strategies are great to have PR strategies and PR, I mean, if you're repeating that like 5 times, your audience is going to fall asleep in the middle of reading about PR strategies because it has no interest, it has no value. They want to know what are the strategies and how can you do different strategies. So very much think about the value and what the takeaway is. And don't do keyword stuffing. Leave your stuffing for the turkey, not for your content. All right, in summary, remember, choose a headline that is simple and clear. Hook the reader so they want to continue reading. That's number 2. Solve their problem and really think about being in their shoes. If you were reading this article, would you stay with it? Would you even want to skim it? Would you be interested? If it's boring to you, it's going to be boring to them. So you've got to put yourself in their shoes. And lastly, make it easy for them to follow your information, your structure, and skim through to get what they need. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jennifer. I like the idea of the chandelier being that stunning point that sold the house, that made people enticed. Now I'm thinking, do I need to get a new chandelier? I mean, since I'm in the midst of renovating anyways right now, new floors, I guess we'll settle. New roof and new floors, the 2 essentials. Very good. I see, Daniel, you have your hand raised. Go ahead, please.
I have 2 questions. First of all, I have a small business and I'm right now trying to dial in things like Google profiles and so forth. And the companies I'm working with are advocating keyword stuffing to a almost embarrassing degree. So I concern myself with making sure I want to be able to drive people to my site and to my profile. So where do you draw that line?
Can I answer that?
Absolute. I was going to say, you're the expert. Please take it.
You want some keywords. I'm not saying don't have any, but in the mid 90s, it was like every other phrase. Okay. It was too much. And what happened is with Google at the time, those types of articles got to the top of searches because they had the keywords in them, and the algorithms were not sophisticated enough at that time. They have improved the algorithms a lot since the mid 90s. So now it's more based on the value of the content. Are you a thought leader? It's usually longer because people would do like 200, 300 word blog posts, and then they put like half of that post would be keywords. So the computer was fooled into thinking this should be at the top of the search. And when in reality, it's empty content. So now the algorithm knows, okay, longer is better. Some keywords are good. You use too many and it almost flags it the other way. So if you want your search to be at the bottom, keyword stuff too much, and that's where it'll end up being.
Thank you, Jennifer. Does that help, Daniel?
It answers one question. I still have a second question, which is you mentioned to try to keep the sentences short and concise, but use a lot of bolding. How do you get away from the ransom letter principle?
That's an interesting way to put it. I'm not saying you want to bold like the whole paragraph, if that's what you're thinking I meant. I meant like the subtopics. If somebody's skimming, let's say they want to know about PR strategies, a key phrase, 1 or 2 words would be bolded, maybe 3 of those in a row. And then if there's like a list that you're bolding for different aspects of what you're talking about, that would stand out too. You want the bolding to stand out without it being too much. I mean, it's the same thing with the keywords. You don't want too much bolding because then it'll just blend together. But you want a few things to stand out so the person reading it can kind of remember. And then links too, I forgot to mention that. Links, if you put in a few links here and there, they can continue on and learn more if they want to.
So I was a content creator, tech writer for Yahoo. And while we agreed that content was king, after you've mastered that, then we learned that context is king. And So it was a challenge I had when I was being told that my writing needed to be more for marketing than it was for information, since even though I was writing help articles, which are all about information, we were kind of serving the marketing team. And so they have a different goal when it comes to writing. So where does the detail come in that leads to the context that improves the content?
Well, if you're doing a white paper, which would be more marketing based, you'd have a different format for that. And that would probably look not like a ransom letter, but it would look more like more bolding and more marketing type of context where you're trying to get a sale at the end. So what is the goal of the content for Toastmasters? If we're doing like a meeting where you have a guest speaker, you want to put at the top, this is the guest speaker, this is where their expertise is, and this is what you'll get out of attending. But if you were doing like a marketing piece for Toastmasters, you would be focusing on what would attract people to in a Toastmaster set. It's a different audience altogether. So there's like a marketing audience that you're talking about. Then there's people we're trying to attract for membership. And then there's like thought leadership where you're trying to give value to an audience, and whether or not they come to your meeting or join, they have the idea that you know a lot about public speaking and leadership. And so that's another goal. So it depends on the goal of what you're trying to achieve, and that will affect your length and your context.
Thank you very much for your questions. And thank you, Jennifer, for your answers. And I am grateful that our format allows us, enables us to have the flexibility to respond in this type of a manner to be able to go forward. Next, I'd like to ask our timer to give us the timing for the two speeches, and Jennifer's does not include her Q&A.
Absolutely. Both speakers met their time objectives. Fred was 7 minutes and 18 seconds, and Jennifer came in exactly at 6 minutes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I would now like to call on Maren Ziba, Maren, to conduct the business section of our meeting.
Thank you, Marcy. It's an exciting week for Toastmasters in District 7. District 7 is Northern California, Southern Washington, Western Idaho, and Oregon, which is where most of our members hail from. TLI is coming up starting tomorrow, and it's my pleasure to say we have 5 members at least participating in TLI as speakers. You have a little moment before you're going to have to pitch your session. Fred, Bob, and Jill. You're going to have a 30-second spot in just a sec. This is your reminder, sub members, that TLI is an interesting way to learn information, meet other Toastmasters, but also to remind our leadership team, please go do a session so that we get credit toward the DCP. I would like to let everyone know that we are trying a new events platform in District 7 this year, Zoom events. It may behoove you to register and go see it prior to tomorrow evening or Saturday morning, so you get a feel for it. You're going to pull up to a screen that will have little squares of each of the speeches. Another thing we were discussing right before the meeting was that your Zoom email needs to associate to the email that you register under. So make sure that they are the same. More than one of us has had to create another Zoom account to make sure it will work correctly for us. Bob, I would love to hear your 30-second pitch for your meeting about planning.
Okay, listen up, folks. The Scottish poet Robert Burns wrote a poem in the 1700s called An Ode to a Mouse, and it goes something like, the best laid plans of mice and men gang aft a gley. Agley? What the heck is that? It just means going sideways. Plans don't always go the way you expect them to. I'm going to be talking about planning for Toastmasters purposes, club success plans. Do you need to do it? I'm also going to be doing another one on VP of membership. You get a double header from me. And I'm titling that one, Dear VPM, there's a hole in my bucket. The job of the VPM is to carry this bucket of water that's got holes in it. The members are coming out of it, and you got to keep it leveled off. How do you do that in a Toastmasters club? Come join me Friday and Saturday, and let's dig into those topics. Maren.
Thank you, Bob. Fred, it is your turn.
Thank you. I too, like Bob, I'm doing a double header. On Friday, I am teaching the president's session, and on Saturday, I am teaching the VPPR session. So whether you're a veteran officer in either of these roles or a brand new officer, I highly encourage you to go. And as you found out from some of my previous speeches here, I like to do a lot of audience engagement, and I change things up a little bit. So it might behoove you to come or send somebody who you feel could benefit from it. Back to you, Maren.
Thank you, Fred. Jill.
Marcy, screen share. We had to take advantage of just sharing the video that Marcy created for us because she did such a great job on it. I will be presenting with Maren and Marcy on Saturday at 10:15. We will be covering stepping stones for success when it comes to PR. Join us for a little bit of fun and entertainment and hearing 3 of your PR Masters members all in one spot. Back to you, Maren.
Thank you, Jill. What a delightful surprise and an opportunity to share the work of fellow PR people. I think one of the benefits of this club is having someone that actually sees your stuff and goes, I know that work went behind that. Time was spent. We also like to support posts and show different things that we can do to promote our posts. So I'm going to shamelessly plug our LinkedIn post. And if you all would like to react in some way to that post, that helps us get more views, and we'll see if it pulls more people into TLI and to our session. Any other business items I'm missing? Our first meeting would be the first week of January. So a little reminder that it gets a little bit busy this time of year, and to remember to be checking in on Easy Speak for roles, because we're all going to get super busy, and then suddenly we'll have a meeting in the first week of January. Just a little reminder about signing up for roles. Thank you so much, and back to you, Marcy.
Thank you so much, Maren. One of the things I wanted to do tonight was express my gratitude to many of our members for checking in on Easy Speak and confirming your roles and providing data for us in advance. This makes the job of everyone much easier and creates dynamic meetings. I now am delighted to move forward into our table topics session of our meeting, which can be a little bit different. And to take that forward, I welcome Matthew. The virtual podium is yours, sir.
Thank you so much. I have a variety of table topic questions to share, and they're all on the topic of content marketing. And I am going to start with a guest. Patricia, I would love to hear from you. And I have a question that I picked out especially for you. This is the question. You can answer either way. Both are good. Looking for from you an example of Could be a company, could be an organization, could be something you've seen of somebody who got content marketing right, or conversely, it could be somebody who got content that you found lacking. And how would you have made it right?
That is a good question. And I don't have an answer for that. I think that I am
Is there an ad
constantly,
you've seen that you found interesting or compelling that had content in it that was useful?
I've seen like, okay, on Facebook, I've seen a lot of ads that are not compelling.
Mm.
I've seen a lot of ads that use same buzzwords over and over so that it's so redundant that it's not interesting anymore. It's no longer compelling. For example, coaches that want to help you live your best life. Gee, how do I tell which coach is different than another? Because they all want us to live our best life. This is what really bugs me, is when people use the same thing over and over and over again, and it really doesn't differentiate them from someone else. Because let's face it, there are multitudes of people offering the same products or services, and we have to use language that makes us stand out. Back to you, Matt.
I love that. And also, don't we all want to live our best life? And also, isn't that content just so incredibly generic? Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Marin, I've got a question for you. What are some effective strategies or ineffective strategy that you found to get people to connect to content that you're interested in sharing and getting them to share it?
Connect to content. That's always my favorite one, because it's all about the picture. Like, what is going to attract them to reading your content? Having a compelling image, for me, is the thing that's pulling them in. And then how are they going to read it? Jennifer and I go around short sentences. I really like the discussion that was just had about how to not make it look like a ransom letter, but really the ransom letter is effective. Like, let's go pro ransom letter in our argument here, like capitals and bolding, but look at it and is it annoying? Okay, take a step back. If it's annoying, like, has it lost its effectiveness because you use too much of it? It's a balancing act of the art of visualizing text over writing text and having the word choices. So it's where design meets writing, and that is the question. Like, how can we make that writing look interesting to read? And especially if you're writing something long, like a follow-up post to a meeting, how can you get someone interested to read about the meeting? Usually your target audience is the membership themselves. They want to be tagged. They want to know that you did that work, because you can do all sorts of work, and if you never tag them, they never know that you did that. They don't know that you did a member celebration. They don't know that you liked what they said in the meeting. They have no idea. So how do you get more reactions? Definitely tag them, for sure. And then there's telling people why. Inspire them. Say, hey, let's share our club with the world. And to help us with that, all you have to do is have a reaction, hopefully beyond a like. A like is a little boring. And write a comment. Start a conversation, and that post will be seen by more folks if you do those steps. That's my quick answer. A little into the red. Back to you, Matthew.
Love it. All right, my next question is for Vivian. Vivian, I know that you're someone that creates content regularly, but my question for you is not about new content, it's about old content. How have you been able to get people interested in old content? How do you reuse content? Or if it's not you, how have you found old content useful?
I love your question. Love, love, love. Let me ask all of you, guys and gals. The word is gossip. People love gossip. So we start with a hook. I'm learning from Jennifer and from Fred. It would be like, do you know what pickup lines I learned from Fred and Jennifer last week? So all of a sudden people are like, pickup lines, I need pickup lines. I said, well, that's what happens when you don't go to PR Masters. But I'm gonna be nice and kind in the spirit of Christmas, and I'm gonna tell you. And then a further hook would be using the same gossip. What's the first letter of the two pickup lines? Just go on and on, right? And then somewhere along the line, you can find them on Facebook, and the date that's there is so-and-so date. And then you will want to have a clipping or a segment of your video, and then say, if you want to know more, then you further connect them to the longer version. So that's what I do. That's why my show is called, you can see it there, Show and Tell. It's educational gossip. People don't like academic stuff, so I put academic stuff in the form of gossip, which is what I just did with you. I showed you how to gossip, but in a nice, educational Toastmasters approved manner. I hope you approve, or else I'm in trouble with a capital T. I hope not. Lots of love from Manila. Kisses.
Just goes to show you, fellow Toastmasters, that content doesn't always have to be brand new to be useful. Content can be reused. My next question is for Jennifer. Jennifer, aside from hiring a very talented writer, talk to us about a process for a layperson to edit and proofread marketing content. What's your recommended process, briefly, for somebody to review content? Make sure that's good.
Thank you, Matthew. For reviewing content, start with having a trusted person read it, and you're looking to see if it makes sense. And one way you can start to see if it makes sense is to read it out loud yourself as well. Read it out loud, and if you're stumbling on any point throughout, if the sentence is going on and you're trying to catch your breath, that's not good. You need a period in there somewhere. There are ways to know if it's making sense, and that's really what you want. The less it makes sense then it gets garbled, and the reader will get lost, and they'll get caught into your run-in sentence or something. So that's what I recommend. Reading it out loud, having someone read it as if they were reading it on the internet and telling you if it makes sense, if they get your main points.
Excellent. That is good advice, not only for written content, but also for oral content. Sometimes it really helps to put in a period and give your audience a chance to listen. My next question, and I'll say, I can keep asking questions all day. The timer and the Toastmaster should feel free to tell me at any point, this is your last question. And it can be
This is your last question.
There we go. My last question is a question for Barbie. Of course, I was going to get to you, Barbie. My question for you is actually just about data. It's about numbers. What role do you think numbers or data should play in the messages that we share? Is it important to say something and back it up with facts? Or do you think that a marketing message is okay if it's just more sort of breezy?
I think
Well, I am not a PR master, okay? I come here hoping I'll learn a little bit about it. And as far as data, however you pronounce it, it bores me. I fall asleep with the statistics and so if I'm listening to you, you've lost me. I'm more about emotions and feelings. That's what gets me. If you're passionate and emotional about your subject matter, you got me. That's the hook that gets me. Data, I think of data in Next Generation Star Trek. He was my favorite character, or one of my favorite characters, but I could not be him. He made data funny. That's what I liked. If you can make data funny, then you got me. Back to you, Matthew.
Barbie, do not tell me that you are not a PR master. That is a great answer. And it's very true, right? For so many people, it's the emotional hook of an ad that makes it meaningful. And that's on display so much on television, right? Ads are designed to pull at your heartstrings. They're designed to make you feel something. The ads I hate are always like car sale ads where it's just numbers. I'm like, okay, not listening to you at all. With that, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to the Toastmaster. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Matthew, for an engaging session that actually touched on some controversial things that it really could have made us think. Once again, if we get people thinking, we keep them engaged. At least that's my experience. I'm delighted now to ask Bob for the timing on our table topic speakers.
We had 5 table topic speakers. Every one of them met their time objectives. Patricia, 1 minute 30 seconds. Maren, 2 minutes 15 seconds. Vivian, 1 minute 44. Jennifer, 106. And Barbie, 113. Madam Toastmaster.
I am delighted to say you guys were knocking it out of the park tonight. How exciting is that? Our content is good and we're on time and doing that meaningfully. As we do not have a general evaluator tonight, I will step into that role and introduce now our evaluators. Adam, I invite you to stand behind the lectern. Or on the, oh, wait a sec, Fred, you gave it to me and I messed it up again.
No, that is correct.
Okay, so Matthew, Adam, if you would please provide your evaluation for Fred's speech.
Sure, of course, happy to. My pleasure. Starting off with the introduction or the initial part of the speech, I really like the fact that, Fred, you captured the attention right off the bat by defining content, right? What is the definition of content? All the following terms. That was really interesting. And props to you also for engaging with the audience right off the bat. And something that I've come across from a lot of you here is to, instead of calling on people, or sorry, instead of asking for volunteers, cold calling. I think you did that. So that was a good job. And yeah, great way to capture the attention right off the bat. So A+ on engagement. Moving on to the later phases of the speech, I thought your elf, or what I mistook as the English crown. Yeah, crown. There you go. Crown was really interesting. So interesting props, interesting background with the Christmas tree and all that. So right on with the December theme. Overall, I thought the presentation had a good flow to it. I got a sense of what you wanted to convey, and I realized that you were trying to hit on a niche area of the whole content space. So that was really interesting. One of the things I would have loved to see more is some actionable next steps on how you can how people can incorporate your ideas into some real world content generation. Like, let's say someone is here in a peer masters meeting and is new to, and maybe they're on their own business. They're thinking, how can I start thinking about content for my small business? So I know you you had a few examples peppered in there, but would have loved to see some more, like content 101 kind of a thing, or this is how you would apply some of what I'm talking about into creating content or incorporating content into the social media space. But overall, really funny graphics. The cat upside down was a really interesting way to show a different perspective. And 3-2-1 had a nice ring to it. Overall, engaging, funny, um, definitely a treat to listen to. Back to Marcy, right?
Thank you, Adam. One of the reasons I truly appreciate being a Toastmaster is the opportunity to receive feedback. This, to me, for me personally, is the most meaningful part of our meetings as we go away, as it helps us grow in our skill as speakers and as evaluators. A thing that I totally love. It's the gravy, huh? Is it the gravy, Baron? On that, I now want to welcome Jill. I only got part of the conversation there. Terrible when you jump into the middle of a conversation. But Jill, please provide us with your feedback to Jennifer.
Thank you, Marcy. It was an honor to evaluate Jennifer's speech tonight. I want to start off by recognizing and appreciating the fact that you established your credibility at the beginning of your speech. I don't know what your background was personally, and so I was kind of sitting here thinking, what is Jennifer bringing, or why is she somebody that should be providing us with this info? So that was very helpful to me, and I really valued you having that up front at the beginning. You had excellent structure of your speech as you gave that kind of intro about yourself, went into your examples, and then that good summary right at the ending. Your content was very sound, usable, helpful, and simple. It wasn't too much content. I think that's the other thing I want to make a point of, and maybe going back to the stuffing and being stuffed analogy, I didn't feel like it was stuffed with too much information. I'm one that tends to put in too much information into a speech. So I really appreciated how you had those 4 points. It was logical, it was thoughtful, and it was appropriate amount of content for your 5 to 7 minute speech. 2 things you could consider working on, Jennifer, more vocal variety. I have not heard you speak that much, and so I don't know if this is a comment you get regularly or not, but your voice projected well, you sounded good. Just consider more vocal variety, ups and downs a little bit, ins and outs. You use the space good there too. So I mean, you could have the opportunity to be doing a little bit more in your Zoom box. The last thing for opportunity there, stronger closing. I was really hoping for a stronger closing. I like the fact that you restated the 4 key points, but then you just kind of turned it back over to Marcy. Something about summarizing it up and really closing with impact was what I was hoping for, just wrapping it all together with an impactful closing. To challenge yourself, you could consider some PowerPoint slides with some examples. Was the only real thing I was thinking as you were starting. I was sitting there thinking, is she going to put up PowerPoint? Is she not? We're so used to seeing it these days, not always necessary. But I think with what you were sharing, it might have been good to see some examples up on the screen while you were talking. In closing, though, I took a lot away from what you were sharing about the content. I appreciated the specifics that you had provided and the examples that you provided. It helped me understand better what you were sharing and what you were getting at. And I think the last thing I wanted to say was I just appreciated learning about what it takes to get people to engage in content and attract people to your content and be more effective in the PR end of things. With that, back to you, Marcy.
Thanks, Jill. As I take the time to reflect on our meeting a bit, I'm thinking it's coming along good. But Robert, I need you to provide us with some times.
Both evaluators had exactly the same time, on the dot, 2 minutes, 49 seconds.
Sing. One has to love when a meeting comes together like this. I know as a Toastmaster, it gives me a lot of joy and satisfaction. I was feeling a bit apprehensive about it before the meeting started, but I'm delighted to go away knowing that we've been challenged and we've learned new things about content. We've also demonstrated our ability to step up as a club and as individuals. The fact that we've got 5 people presenting at TLI and people doing double headers and the projects that are being presented is amazing to me. One of my favorite components in tonight's meeting was the fact that we had the ability to have a small question and answer session. Thank you very much, Daniel, for stepping up and raising your hand and saying, I don't know, where is the line? I'm being told this, but you told me something else. We cannot move forward if we fail to ask questions. We just get into that route with the bad, let's live your best life, not life. Life. And we need to be able to ask questions. We need to question. We need to be able to bring that forward and become better at what we're doing. And I appreciate your answers, Jennifer, but Daniel, I truly appreciate you stepping up and asking the questions. And I appreciate the fact that as Toastmasters at PR Masters, we're flexible with that. I do believe now we are right on time almost for your session, Bill. I welcome you to the lectern, the virtual lectern.
Well, thank you. I'll try not to run into the lectern as I come forward. Thank you very much. And with the second mini engagement session here, I have been thinking obviously a lot, I'm sure all of you have, about the engaging content and the compelling content and how we create the content. And boy, there's a lot of content tonight's meeting. We got to say that. But now I'm getting to a point, and I want us each to share one aspect of what do we do with it? What do we do with the content that we create? We've been challenged over the past few months of trying to step up our game to get things posted and to get things out there and to make our voices heard. So my question for everybody, and I will call on you by name, is what is the most challenging part for you to actually post, to actually put it out there? And is it something, and maybe it's something that's stopping you from doing it. And I think for myself, one of the reasons I joined this club was to figure out a way for me to be more encouraged and engaged in promoting my program at my high school. And one of the things I tell my students is, well, you got to know your audience. Yeah, I'm around them all day, every day. Do I know my audience? No, I don't know my audience enough to feel comfortable to say, okay, I'm going to post this and it's going to work. And I have doubts. That's the most challenging part for me, is my self-doubt about the value and the compelling nature of what I feel that I need to put out there. So that's my challenge. I'm not going to answer my challenge, and I don't want you to answer your challenge. I just want to know what your challenge is for that. And I'm going to call first upon Matthew, because this is a big topic for you. So I think maybe you could help us with this.
I think for me, one of the biggest challenges is knowing where to put something. right? Thing valuable, and then it's like, in the case of Toastmasters, right? I could put something on my personal page and try to communicate to my friends. I could put it on the PR Masters page, then only people who are subscribed to PR Masters see it. I could put it on LinkedIn, but where do I put it? And how do I link to it? And what do I do with it? I could put it on the district site. Is that good? And then you start thinking, well, geez, what if I put it all these places? And then people start judging me and thinking that, that I'm trying to get
Okay.
people to live their best life.
I'm getting overwhelmed. Oh. And that's true. There's a lot to it with that. Fred, I believe that you're pretty effective when it comes to posting. What would you say is the biggest challenge for you?
Well, with me, I'm too much of a perfectionist because this is also part of what I do for a living. And, you know, they say you're your own worst critic too. So, you know, I'm always thinking, okay, should I go ahead and, you know I can get second points of view, but I also feel it's already out there, you know, it's, you know, can I take it back? So that's my problem is I'm too much of a perfectionist to make sure it's right before it goes out there.
There you go. I appreciate that. Vivian, you have your hand up. Please share.
Yes. When you start posting, if I may share with you, I've been doing this since 2009, both on talk show, TV, radio, and I'm a columnist. My main message to everyone is if you are for everybody, you are for nobody. So I look at the camera, straight at the camera, and I say, if you don't like me, if you don't like what I say, you're not my market. Then I smile and I look at the camera again. I say, why are you still there? I'm not kidding. I really do this. Like, why are you there? Why are you there every week? I just finished telling you you're not my market. Why are you still there? And then I laugh and I say, it's okay if you don't like me, but I like you enough to give this all to you and I hope you can use it. There is nothing like unconditional love that hooks them because people
Yeah.
are so wanting to hear that they are loved no matter what. And then I say, yes, if there's something I can do less or something I can do more, tell me. And here are my contact details. So Bill, half of the people don't like us. Who cares?
That's right. We have enough people who do like us and love us, and that's great. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Jill Bell, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Share us a little bit about what your challenges are.
I think for me, it's a little bit twofold. It's trying to make sure when I'm posting for Toastmasters that I'm posting and generating Toastmasters appropriate branded content, knowing that there's that brand kit and is what I'm putting up appropriate and is it consistent with the branding. The second part is, am I able to come up and draft new and exciting messages, right? Even for a simple post, just to get consistent content up, am I able to find something that's new and exciting? Because sometimes it's not. I'm only posting once a week for my home club, and I'm just trying to find little tidbits to get up there that's new and exciting.
Okay. Awesome. Great. Bob, would you like to share with us?
My biggest problem my whole life is overthinking things. What I've come to learn in recent years is 3 little words: less is more. It's a conundrum, right? Less is more. Keep it simple. That's another way to say the same thing. And the secret to doing that, see, I used to be a crastinator. Now I'm a procrastinator. I've gotten better at it. You leave it to the last minute. You don't have any choice but to do less is more.
Very true. I often tell my kids who turn in work, like, well, if it wasn't for the last minute, nothing would get done. So there you go. Dan Brewer, could you share some insights with us?
Yeah, my challenges right now are with two different, I'm part of 2 clubs, and one of them is thriving because it's kind of an industry club, and there are enough not marketing opportunities without that industry. What I ended up doing was palling up with the leaders of the groups there, and they're all pro Toastmasters, so they've been kind of carrying the ball for me. My other one's struggling. It's a community club that meets on Monday nights. And we tried to charter literally right during COVID. We were all set to start, and then COVID took us indoors, and we got enough members to charter, but now it's just floating. So I'm kind of with Matt on this one. Is I need to know where. I know that we can get members from within the Toastmasters community. My challenge is to go out into the non-Toastmasters community and try to make things cool when there's all we still have is, in lots of ways, is still Zoom. The best results I'm having so far is paper posters that are going up in places like the grocery stores and the places that allow you to still do that. And I'm finding that's still, I mean, the electronic networking is fine, but we're being too anxious to get out of paper.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that I mean, I haven't read a Toastmasters magazine since COVID. I don't know, are they still making them? I haven't seen one since they stopped coming in the mail. So I'm not sure. My running club that I'm a part of also stopped doing that. And I'm not reading them. And I used to look forward to it. So
Interesting.
I think I was counting too much on the digital aspect, and I need to get back to basics. But I'm right with Matt on this. Is where does the message go? It has to be consistent with the values and actually really the base of your club. So
Sure. Yeah. You know, it's interesting that you say that the difference between digital and paper. And I think one other aspect, and it comes with the question of where do I post? Because digital, when you reach out digitally, like it or not, you have a targeted audience. You have a limited audience. But when you're posting things around town or in supermarkets or libraries or wherever, you can reach people that you would otherwise never reach. So that's a really excellent point. I like that.
Well, and I'm like you. I work in a high school, and I'm an aide. I was until this school year. I just retired. But we put up, I mean, everything. They can make announcements all day long. They can send out emails. What gets people to the different events in school are the posters that kids put up in the hallway.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's still what catches their eye. So
yeah, great. Well, thank you. Adam, would you like to share with us?
Sure. So I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Bill, in the sense that it's kind of like a analysis paralysis kind of a thing in terms of like what exactly is valuable, like what's going to be interesting, what's going to be valuable, less so attention, but more like, okay, they're just going to read and we're like, oh, he's just, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. Or are they going to gain something out of it? So understanding what's valuable is, I think, one of the things that holds me back.
Excellent. Jennifer, our content creator extraordinaire, what's your answer to this question?
I've been all over the place. Could you repeat the question?
What do you find most challenging when you're deciding on actually posting?
All right. When I'm posting something, like an article I've written, I'm thinking, okay, what is the question that the person reading my post is going to want answered? So if I'm writing about fixtures, for example, posting that article, what is the problem somebody is having about that they want solved? And it's not a sexy subject. Fixtures are not like the thing that go, ooh, so it has to be something that really catches their eye. I mean, as far as like money or something like that, we get more money if you include your TV and the fixture, things like that. So if you're thinking of selling your house, include your TV, and this is why, and then I'd go into the post. What I wouldn't recommend is some people want to do like that first sentence and then do a blank and skip down. that annoys people typically. So if you're like teasing too much with like a question and then it's like a big blank and they have to scroll down, a lot of people don't like that. So I don't recommend that. Try up front to say, this is what you'll get from this article.
Excellent. Good. Patricia, any insights to share with us tonight?
Well, I will just share that when I'm with regard to club posting, specifically, the biggest challenge that I have is that most clubs don't plan ahead long enough to be able to really create some good buzz around what's going on. And this is something that I've continually pushed clubs to plan ahead so that we could, you know, promote something. So I was successful in getting one of the clubs that I belong to do a leadership series focused talks so that now that's being promoted. I will say that posting, I'm a big poster on social media. And constantly when I have something, I do it on multiple pages on Toastmasters. I'll do it in the international site sometimes. There's multiple VPPR things. And I like to post things in other people's stuff if I'm allowed to, if it's set up so that you can, so that more eyes will see it. And I post everywhere. What's interesting is every now and then, I don't want to inundate my personal, you know, like Facebook or LinkedIn with Toastmaster stuff all the time. But what's interesting is that when I do on my personal, that I get more interaction than I do on my district page or my division page or my club page. Of course, I know more people outside of Toastmasters. So, but what I'd like to see more of is people updating their websites, because I always say that people are searching for things first on Google. And, you know, website-based stuff can lead us back to social media as well. So I think we need to not forget about regularly updating or blogging on our club websites as well.
Good point. A lot of good points in there. Barbie, I don't know how big of a poster you are and what kind of content you get out there, but if you do, when you do, what's challenging about that for you?
I post other people, I share other people's posts, and I have not done any promoting for either of my Toastmasters clubs. So,
That's okay.
but I think when I do, and I'm planning on it, I might try a Facebook Live type thing and just speak about all the benefits I received from being in Toastmasters Club. Because I used to be the person that never had anything to say, and I was afraid that somebody would, you know, ask for my opinion on, oh my goodness, good Lord, I don't have any. And now I have too many. But
Excellent.
Toastmasters has given me my self-confidence and my self-esteem. And yeah, I'm even thinking I could possibly lead something, you know, I possibly could. So
Oh, yes. Excellent.
yes,
Well,
I just have to do it. That's it. And
there we go.
there's the fear yet. There's still the
Ah,
fear yet. So.
okay. We said it out loud. Thank you. That's so true. Marin, your biggest challenge when it comes to posting something? You're a good poster.
Yes, but I wasn't always. I definitely had to build my comfort level. Kind of like public speaking. You're putting yourself out there publicly. You're also expanding your network toward people who are really strangers. And so it is a little wishy-washy sometimes. It's easier with Toastmasters posts. We're promoting an organization. It's relatively easy at work. I'm promoting my organization. But I'm still putting my name on Toastmasters stuff, and my name is going out across the internet. On the flip side, what was the number of content by 2025? What's that word? Zettabyte or something?
175 zettabytes.
As if that many people are going to pay attention to little old me, right? Like, who's noticing? So hopefully people who matter will notice. But I think the discomfort comes in like posting in my own personal feed, like what to say, and you're risking the judgment of your friends and they realize that, oh, maybe I don't believe the same way that you do. And there's a risk there. And I also think that there's some like internal cultural / world bias around like loud, opinionated women. And that can be a backlash that sometimes we have to watch out for. And it makes me nervous sometimes. And I'm really impressed by like these male friends of mine who are always out there with all their opinions, because it doesn't matter if someone disagrees with them. But I'm not certain that's always true for us ladies. And so I find that to be a challenge. That's my variety spiel tonight, Bill.
Well stated. Thank you. Real excellent points. Marcy, you're the last person to share with this, so I'm just going to toss it back to you. Share us a couple of thoughts, and then the meeting is yours.
Thank you very much. Did you give us your thoughts? Your biggest challenges?
I did at the beginning, and it's a matter of, I overthink it. I really don't believe that it's going to be as effective as I need / want it to be. And it's like, well, I think I'll just think about it for one more day, which turns into a year or something like that. So
thank you very much, Bill. That was engaging. It caused each of us to dig deep inside ourselves and look for the things that challenge us. I had a big challenge this week, Monday. I needed to turn in to my home club a 1 to 1.5 minute recorded session to include in a video that we're sending out to our members from our club executive. It took me over an hour to put together a 1.5 minutes. I have no problems doing a 1.5 minutes in this environment or live. I told Maureen, I said, I'd rather be talking for an hour than to have to record a 1.5 minutes. It was challenging. That is one part, is the recorded. I may be recorded and online in different videos that I've presented in. I'm very comfortable with those for a long period of time. However, I am good with that. I'm going to, I have to call, my grandsons are arriving right now. We're at 9:30. Thank you for a wonderful meeting. And I have one thing. Jennifer, could you go ahead, please? She has an announcement and I'll be right back in just a
Okay. My announcement is this: the November issue of Voices has come out. I write a column in there called Plugged In, and the link is in the chat to that. And you'll have to sift through a few pages there. I'm in the 30s somewhere. I mentioned PR Masters. So I mentioned both New Horizons and PR Masters, and I just wanted to let you know, so in case you want to see what I said about you, check it out. And then I'll go back to Marcy here.
Thank you. One of the favorite things I like about December is the opportunity to prepare an advent calendar for my grandsons. They arrived just now to pick it up. They're just interested in the goodies that lay ahead for them for the next 24 days. What a joy it has been to be together with you all tonight. I'm going to officially close the meeting. Now, I invite you, if you're able, to stick around and visit a bit. I